Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special pilot episode of Extra Credits. I am Nick. Joining me is the gravedigger himself, Caster. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, my lovely ducky?
So you finished your work for today?
Yeah, I had to turn in early. Yeah, God, I can't get into it. Just a lot of blood, a lot of screaming, and I need to call it a day.
So here's something I've always wanted to ask you. Why do you have to bury them before you resurrect them? Like, wouldn't it be easier just to resurrect them on the spot? Like, it seems like you're creating more work for yourself, buddy.
Well, see, that's the thing is I don't resurrect them. I try to keep them in the ground as much as possible. Usually a good spike works, but I'm allowed to have 3 legally in the county. You can have 3 undead, and that's what I try to do. But the thing is, they're very wily, and people do get bit, and so I have to it's constant zombie apocalypses that I have to diverge, and it's just, oh my god. So I mean, sometimes
apocalypses you have to cancel.
Sometimes henchmen get bit on accident. Sometimes I throw them down there for fun.
I hate it when that happens. I hate it when
things happen.
Get bit.
But anyways, so what are we going to talk about today?
So speaking of the dead, we're gonna talk about everybody's favorite dead console, the Sega Dreamcast.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much potential in that console, and I don't know, just it makes me sad. I wish it could have stayed around a lot longer. Oh hell, I wish Sega would have stayed around a lot longer than they did in the console market.
I bet that's the one thing that your powers cannot revive.
No, they can't. Sadly, I can't turn back time. Sadly,
you're not Cher.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so what does the Dreamcast mean to you? Like, kind of just tell your personal story with the console.
Well, honestly, I didn't really have much with it. I know, I was there when it came out, but I was still into PlayStation, whatever, and like a lot of people, I was more into the PlayStation 2 when that came out, and yeah, I knew of the Dreamcast, I knew of the games. It looked really cool, but I had jumped that ship that from Sega onto Sony, just like how I had jumped from Nintendo to Sega. So I was on Team Sony, and I was kind of not really in a financial position to buy 2 consoles. I know a lot of people nowadays having multiple consoles is more of a common thing, but back in the day, if you had a Sega Genesis and a Super Nintendo, to me that just blew my fucking mind.
That meant you were rich.
Yeah, so to have multiple consoles like that would have been crazy. So it's more of where do you want to spend your money, and so for me it was wait till the PlayStation 2 comes out, even though the Dreamcast looked really good, it was ahead of its time. It's technically a 90s system because it came out in the 90s, but
right at the tail end. But yeah,
right at the tail. Just how technically the Genesis is an 80s console.
So basically, what you're saying is they allowed the Sega Genesis to seat in the console, but they did not grant him the rank of master.
Pretty much.
That's unfair.
Well, it's they had so much going out of the gate, and I think a lot of it was one, we could talk about pirating, we can talk about no DVD functionality, but I think a lot of it has to do with Sega's attitude of just arcade titles. That's more of what they've always been. It's just a game you can pop in and play, and nothing really, long term. Now, they had games like that, but they wanted games that like fighting games and driving games and platformers and things like
And
that.
don't get me wrong, the fighting games, the driving games were phenomenal on the Dreamcast.
Oh yeah. Oh, believe me, yeah. I'm not knocking them at all, but that's another thing. It's like Sega, for some reason, even though they had RPGs, that was not something they wanted to push like really, really badly. And I know they got into it with or what are they called? Working designs. I know they got into it with working designs a couple of times because of that. Because they just did not want to push, like for the Sega Saturn, they did not want to push RPGs. They wanted arcade titles.
Like for example, we barely like what we think is Shining Force 3 for the Saturn in America is literally just Shining Force 3 Scenario 1. There's literally 2 other titles that we did not get.
Mm-hmm. And we did not get Lunar Superstar Story Complete for the Saturn. That came out later on the PlayStation, but it's actually that is actually a port of the Saturn version, which is an upgraded version of the Sega CD version of Lunar. So,
and like, didn't we also not get Grandia? Like Grandia was supposed to be a Final Fantasy VII killer. Did that not come out in America until the PlayStation version?
I believe so. I'm not sure, but I believe so. I have to look that up. I want to say there's a Grandia on the Dreamcast, but I'm not sure.
There's Grandia 2. That actually did come out on the Dreamcast, and that's viewed as like one of like the top 20 Dreamcast games.
Okay. Yeah, but and to me that's the thing is like they Sega for some reason would always it makes me sad because Sega knows how to snatch a victory from the jaws of defeat, and they also know how to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory too.
Yeah,
so
like Sega is the company that it's never been denying that they have the talent. They have the IPs. Like as far as art, like even like RPG IPs, like the whole Fantasy Star IP, like or like Shining Force, like Shining in the Darkness. Like did we get Shining the Holy Ark, the Dungeon Crawler here in America? I think we did. But like imagine a Shining Force game, like a Shining Force 4 on the Dreamcast. That would have been great.
Yeah.
Or imagine a Shining like a Shining in the Darkness, like a Dreamcast level dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like imagine like that would.
I mean, when you go back and look at Japanese titles on various systems, on various Sega consoles, it's amazing like how much like cool shit we did not get over here in America for one bullshit reason or another.
I mean, that's to be fair, that's not just a Sega problem. Like in the '90s, that was like everywhere. Like there's so many great like SNES RPGs that like we're only just now starting to get. Like for example, like Live a Live. Like that was on the Super Nintendo, and people play fan translations of that for like 20 years. We're only just now getting it. Also, hashtag release Mother 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's amazing because like do you know Sega Lord X?
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's an amazing channel. I know the other day he had a video he put up about basically what you need to learn before getting a Sega Saturn, and I watched that video, and one of the things he was talking about was the option of getting an import console, so you can play all those amazing import games. And I'm just sitting there thinking, Jesus Christ, how many amazing fucking games they have over there that we did not get.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, can't you just use an action replay to change the region? Because like, I thought it was like the action 4-in-1 replay was like the gold standard for what you use for those kind of things.
It may be. I do not know. I'm not really aware of that. That may be the case, but But even if you could change the region on your system, you still got to deal with such barriers as language, especially if you're going to play those RPGs that we don't get. You know,
Yeah, and then you kind of go into the fan translation realm, and
like for instance, I have the Japanese version of Shining Force Gaiden for the Game Gear, but
ooh.
I have it as a collector's piece because I cannot play it because it's all in Japanese.
Yeah, like I know this isn't really Sega, but like for example, there's a Star Ocean game for the Game Boy that's strictly in Japanese.
Yeah, and it just sucks. But but getting back to the topic, like I think that's something that hurt Sega a lot was the fact that they were just like, we're going to be arcade, we're going to be the arcade only system, and we're not going to brush out into like really hit heavy with the RPGs. And I mean, that's something that I think PlayStation and PlayStation 2 had a shit ton of, and it was just absolutely amazing.
Well, Sony really was kind of like there kind of like right time kind of thing. Like they just took advantage of the situation. Because you got to remember, like Final Fantasy VII was supposed to be an N64 game. Like Square Enix were full steam ahead. Like they were willing to do it. But it was a cartridge format. Nintendo stuck to the cartridge format, and Sony, like they lured Square in with their CD technology. If Nintendo hadn't if the N64 had been a disc-based console, literally history would have been so different.
Yeah, and we meant it boggles the mind of what could happen. Would Nintendo have just been a gigantic fucking powerhouse? Probably,
because the N64 is a really powerful system. Like, just imagine the N64, but with a CD with 700 megabytes of data. Yeah. Imagine sure, it handles graphics differently than the PlayStation. I mean, that's fine. But just imagine just more of it, better quality textures, or imagine. Okay,
I mean, that's what it would have been. It would have been a PlayStation because that's what they were trying to do is get the CD add-on with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it would have basically imagine basically a Sony PlayStation in an N64 skin. That's what it would be, and Sony would probably never gone on their own. And I don't know how that would affect Sega. I don't know if Sega would up their game. I don't know.
It's a lot of factors. For me, in my opinion, I think the death knell of Sega wasn't the Dreamcast. It goes back actually a lot further back than that. I think there's two things that ultimately sealed the fate of Sega. The 32X, just releasing that in the first place was, while if you look at it, it does make some sort of logical sense. You can see why the executives thought that. You can see how it could be a good decision.
Yeah.
But honestly, they should have just released the Sega Neptune. Honestly, the Sega Neptune should have been their next console. Imagine just the 32X, but it plays Genesis games, Sega CD games.
Full backwards compatibility with everything. Yeah.
It might not have been as powerful as a PlayStation, but it could have kept up.
Yeah.
I feel like we have never actually seen the full power of the 32X, honestly.
Well, again, going back to Sega Lord X, he had a video about recently about the 32X and comparing it to to the Sega Saturn, and the 32X, again, while not as powerful, it in some cases it actually outperforms the Sega Saturn, but you could tell it's not as good, but it's not that bad either.
So basically, it's kind of in the realm of, well, not as good. It could have certainly held its own, and with the backwards compatibility of you can play all your Genesis and your Sega CD games on it, because it'll be a CD thing. That would have just put because all the people who had a Genesis would have gladly upgraded first and foremost, and the Tower Power people, they would have gladly done it. Well, that wouldn't have existed in this timeline, but it might not have been like honestly I think in this scenario, Sony might have still been number one, but like they probably would have beaten the N64 in this scenario.
Yeah.
Because like they would have gotten because I imagine the 32X probably would have been a lot easier to develop for than the Saturn. So Tomb Raider might have remained an exclusive for the system, and Resident Evil also we would have gotten Resident Evil 2 on the Neptune,
Yeah.
and I mean there's a couple other things. The other big one was releasing the Saturn 5 months early. That was a colossal miscalculation in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Because releasing it early was immediately undercut by $299. So anything they could have gotten from it was immediately cut out. Literally 5 seconds later, $299. That was literally that was Sony declaring the death of the Saturn. Literally at that point.
Yeah.
And
it was just. Go ahead.
I feel like maybe moving the launch date up 1 month or 2 months to give devs time to make their games and maybe work with retailers, because there's a scenario where we're moving the release date up, but you let the lead because retailers were blindsided and they were pissed, and okay, you move the release date up 1 or 2 months. Sure, the devs might grumble a little bit, but it's a lot easier than all of a sudden, the Saturn's out now, It really comes down to a communication issue, and I think those two things put Saturn really in a death spiral. Plus, the other thing is there was kind of a bit of a proxy war between Sega America and Sega Japan.
That's another thing too. There was a lot of animosity between the two for some reason.
Well, it's really quite clear. The Genesis didn't really do that well in Japan. While the Genesis really did well in Europe and America.
Yeah.
And they want to continue to success the Genesis. I honestly think like we said, the Neptune would have been a bit if you're going to go down the route of extending the Genesis, the Neptune would have been a better call in that scenario. Just release have that be your new system. But honestly, the problem is Sega just didn't have a united front. If they just would have not released the 32X and gone to the Saturn, it might not have done well, but the Sega passionate fans would have been there,
Yeah.
Also, the infighting of Sonic, Sonic Extreme should have come out. It had a chance at one point when it was using the Knights engine, and then Yuji Naka literally yanked that away because of his ginormous ego.
Yeah.
Just imagine if we got if you look at the Sonic Extreme prototypes, there's a good game in there. It's very rough, but you can see how it could be a really fun game.
Yeah, and see that hurt the Saturn a lot, was not having a true Sonic game on it.
Mm-hmm.
and then also I don't know, it's just it's like Sega just dropped the ball with a lot of their franchises. We didn't get another Streets of Rage game until the fucking Switch. So
you do know that Fighting Force was pitched as a Streets of Rage game.
Oh, I know, and
there's lots of handled topics there's supposed to be a Chikan game for the Dreamcast. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit.
Yeah,
but we should have was there a Golden Axe game on the Saturn?
I think there was. I know there was a Shinobi game on there too.
Imagine if they had done another Golden Axe Warrior as their Ocarina of Time killer. They could have done that.
They definitely could have. Yeah, that's just
because the Golden Axe name by the time the Saturn was still a fairly well-known name. So Golden Axe Warrior, they totally could have done that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. They could have done that. They could have like I said, they could have done another Streets of Rage. We didn't really get a
Star game was desperately needed, a Phantasy Star 5.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, it did have a version of Symphony of the Night, but honestly, if they could have got Rando of Blood on there, that would have been fucking amazing. But I don't know if they could have gotten
that.
The
problem with the Symphony of the Night port is, while it does have extras on it, it is very buggy. But I think that version should have come to America. That would have been cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like that should have just came to America anyways.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just more content for people to have on their systems, and then also going back to the Dreamcast, like that's another thing too. Is like I don't think the Dreamcast had a Castlevania game when it did it.
They were developing one, which it did leak about a year or so ago. Castlevania Legends.
Mm-hmm.
That probably would have been a good game. The problem with
Yeah.
the Dreamcast was it had an amazing launch. Like the launch lineup of the Dreamcast is literally like probably in the top 3 of like best launches ever.
Yeah.
And if you look at the numbers, the Dreamcast was doing crazy out of the launch gate.
Oh yeah.
The problem is, they didn't follow up on it. Like there was big droughts of content.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Definitely.
like sure,
And
Phantasy Star Online was a good game, but like once again, like you needed like more stuff that people knew of. Like, yeah, Grandia 2 was a win. Like, yeah, that's a good game for the Dreamcast. But like, at one point Max Payne was in development for the Dreamcast, right?
oh wow, that came out. That would have been amazing.
The problem was the Dreamcast. I think as bad as this is, I think what Sega should have done is delay the Japanese launch by a year and have a global launch on 9/9/99. Okay, and instead of a GD-ROM, they should that would have given them more time to develop the system. And here's the two things the Dreamcast needed. It needed at least 32 megs of RAM because it only had 16, and that really hurt it.
Yeah.
And it needed a DVD player. And honestly, if they would have come out with the zip drive a year later, like they planned, like a zip drive, that would have allowed them to compete with the Xbox. Imagine the stuff they could have done, or even if the zip drive had come out, with it as an accessory, like just imagine the kind of stuff you can do with it, like with storage.
Mm-hmm.
Because or imagine if the Dreamcast, like if they this is getting into crack pot theory territory.
Yeah.
Imagine if it came with a DVD player in 1999 and it could play DVD movies in 1999 and it costs $199. Like we're getting into a really crackpot territory here. Like that would totally take the wind out of the PS2 sales.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, it's like even if you just get it for the DVD function, it's still cheaper than what a DVD player would have been at the time.
And that was the selling point of the PS2 in the first few years.
Yeah.
Like the PS2 sold so well in the box, not because of the game. So like if you look at the first few years of PS2, like honestly, it's crap. Like the PS2 really didn't get steam until GTA 3 came out, like in 2002, 2003. So like those first few years, it was being sold as like, oh, it's a cheap DVD player. Like that was how PS2 got into the houses.
Yeah.
And good for Sony. See,
I mean, I even heard people who, weren't even gamers saying how they wanted to get a PlayStation just for that.
Also, the other thing you gotta keep in mind is in this scenario, where the Dreamcast is successful, the Xbox never comes out because like Microsoft was actually very hesitant about the Xbox, and the only reason they even went through with it is because the Dreamcast went away and opened up the market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think having a fourth console, you have Sony, you have Sega, you have Microsoft, and you have Nintendo. I think that would have thrown out the balance of power, giving too many choices for customers to have. I think ultimately would hurt everything. So yeah, I think that would have hurt the gaming in general. I think with too many consoles, it would have kind of flooded the market a little bit.
I want to say, in this scenario, I think the PS2 is still going to win. I think the Dreamcast is probably going to be 2 or 3, because the GameCube in this scenario is going to have a huge advantage of being the most powerful console by a large of the GameCube games looking so much better on you know what I'm saying? Because like GameCube was a really powerful system.
GameCube was a fucking beast. It was actually more. I think it was more powerful than the PlayStation 2 in terms of
by
just power.
by a very large margin. Like Xbox is number one, but like the GameCube was no slouch. Like it could like the thing that held the GameCube back was those little mini DVD discs, like the same problem the Sega had, with the DVD-ROMs.
Exactly.
But like even the thing is, we're kind of like we're in a scenario where the Switch is it, where we're like, yeah, it's not the most powerful, but it's powerful enough that you could port down.
Yeah.
And Sega would have continued their Sega would have still done the networking stuff. Like they were doing a big push in online. So like I in this scenario, I still do see Sega taking Xbox's spot as like the technical innovator.
Yeah.
Like they had voice chat on the Dreamcast.
Yeah. And they had VGA, capability too. So you can get a higher quality signal off that.
And in this scenario, the zip drive add-on would have come out, and then probably they would have done the VMU upgrade, which would have made it an MP3 player. Which
that would have been badass.
Yeah, because they were developing. You didn't know about that?
Oh, I did not know that. That'd have been badass.
Because you got to remember, around this time period, the iPod was coming out. So this could have been an iPod alternative.
So you're telling me you'd have a system that's both an iPod and a CD player in the early 2000s? That would have been fucking amazing.
And a DVD player and online going on. Plus, it has removable high capacity storage with the zip disks.
Yeah.
This is actually pretty attractive console for the early.
Yeah, it would have been a fucking beast. Yeah. And I heard a rumor the other day that quite possibly they were also trying to appease to the console gamer, or not the console, but the PC gamer, as not a replacement for the PC, but an add-on. Like, hey, you can hook this up to your monitor and still have console games, that you can play, and also it has internet, so you can do your internet stuff. So it would be the PC gamers console game or console system, basically.
I mean, just imagine the Half-Life port would have come out, and with it having such easy mouse and keyboard, imagine the PC ports we could have gotten.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about it. It had a keyboard. Yeah. Yeah,
and
you could definitely. Yeah. And imagine.
Also, in this scenario,
imagine if you put first-person shooters
coming out of EverQuest coming out on the Dreamcast.
Yeah. Imagine if you put first-person shooters on there and you have a keyboard and mouse.
I think you can play Quake 3 with mouse and keyboard, I believe.
Yeah, so just imagine that. You already have an advantage. So, Jesus Christ. So yeah, I think
did you know System Shock 2 was supposed to get a port on the Dreamcast?
What game is that?
System Shock 2.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, that was in development. I mean, there's a lot of canceled Dreamcast ports and whatnot, but yeah, they were developing System Shock 2. I could imagine, Deus Ex probably could have come out on the Dreamcast in this scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, probably wouldn't cut down the PS2 port, but hey, it would have been doable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But I've been but lately, I got myself a Dreamcast and a little while ago, and I got the Acura HD adapter to it, HDMI adapter.
Nice.
And I'm just, because like I said, I didn't have a Dreamcast, so now I'm just kind of experiencing it for the first time, and I'm sitting there going, my God, it's beautiful. With the VGA.
All right, what games do you have for it?
I don't have many right now. I only have 3 games for it. I'm definitely trying to change that.
Yeah, because I want to give you some recommendations, but I want to know what you have first.
Well, right now I have Sonic Adventure.
Okay, as you should.
Was a solid game. I have the port of Soul Reaver which
Mhm.
just yeah, in terms of um in terms of quality, it blows the PlayStation video quality out of the window.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then I have Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
All right. You need to get Soul Calibur first and foremost. That's not too expensive a game.
Yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2, great game, but might cost you a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, Shenmue. You need to get Sonic Adventure 2. DOA 2, Dead or Alive 2 is pretty good. Grandia 2. You need to get Grandia 2 if you want like a good RPG. Also,
I,
maybe
I've
look
always
into
wanted to
Phantasy.
play. I've always wanted to play Skies of Arcadia.
That's an Xbox game. Oh, no. Sorry, I was thinking of sorry. Yes, that I've heard that's a good game.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to play that too. That looked really
Oh,
nice.
a game that I recommend is Time Stalkers. That's a nice little cutesy kind of like dungeon crawling RPG. It's a very weird game, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And I've had people recommend me stuff too, and I had somebody recommend me Power Stone.
yes. That's basically kind of like a Smash Brothers kind of game. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and
Crazy Taxi. You need Crazy Taxi.
Oh yeah. And it kind of like makes me sad that they don't do like anime openings as much as they used to.
Oh, speaking of that, you need to get Jet Grind Radio.
Yep. That's another one.
That
Yep, that's
game is
another
going to look amazing on your system. I'm telling you that right now. With your setup, it'll look amazing. Like that game still looks good today.
Yeah. I got a whole list here I'm trying to go through, but like, I collect for other systems too, so I just got to get them as I find them.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
But yeah,
have you messed around with Dreamcast?
with Bleamcast.
Yeah.
No,
So
I haven't.
that lets you play PlayStation games on your Dreamcast.
Really?
Yes. There was this whole legal battle about it. That basically, what you do is you put the Dreamcast disc, and it's like each disc is like for its own game. Like for example, there's literally 3: Tekken 3, Gran Turismo 2, and Metal Gear Solid. So, like, let's say you have the Metal Gear Solid disc. What you do is you put the Dreamcast Metal Gear Solid disc, it loads it up, and then you take it out. Then you put the Metal Gear Solid disc in there, and then you can play Metal Gear Solid on your Dreamcast.
That's that's crazy, and you can save it everything, right?
Yes, and it also you do get upgraded graphics.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
All right. Tell you what. You kind of talk for a second. I'm going to look up some footage.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
All right. Well, while he's doing that, I better just go ahead and plug my channel so you can go to the Boneyard. I'll have Nick here put the link to my channel in his into his description here, and you can go check out my channel. We do I do rants on different things. I do modification videos, and I also do just random stuff like anime videos, and actually done anime figurine videos a little while back. So if you want to do that, just go ahead and check that out. And here we have here we go. Oh wow. And this is on the Dreamcast.
Yes.
Hijacking a nuclear weapon.
Can you just see like? And by the way, this is like upres to 720p, but can you already see the upgraded graphics?
Yeah, it's yeah, that looks really good.
Noticed.
Look at that.
Yeah. This almost looks like the PlayStation HD mod.
So there's
Like in
another
terms
one.
of
Let me
in terms of
show you.
Christmas.
Yeah. Let me look up Gran Turismo 2 because I swear it looks so good. It looks almost like it almost looks like Gran Turismo 3 on the PS2 quality. Like it's just
I mean, Gran Turismo, you know, as a series already looks good. You know, whatever system it's on, it looks great. So yeah,
but look at that.
wow, that's amazing.
This is Gran Turismo 2. Like literally if you told me this is Gran Turismo 3, I'd like squint a little bit, but like okay. I'm sorry. I gotta turn the music off because that'll give me copyright stricken.
Yeah, but that looks really good.
Oh, just look at this, bro. Like look at the reflection. Like the texture filtering looks so smoother. Oh my god. All right.
Yeah,
So
that looks very, very good.
all right. Let me just for the people who might not have a point of comparison. Let me show you. This is just the straight PS2 version. PS1. I'm sorry. All right. I'm trying to get to a freaking race. There we go. There we go. Like, look at that. Like, you can just tell.
Yeah, that's night and day. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah. Holy crap.
And then before we get off this, shout out to whatever this guy's name is for doing this. Like just acknowledging, hey, we got your footage from here, so we're just trying to acknowledge that.
Yeah, go to his channel and subscribe.
Yes, please do. But yeah, isn't that that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that almost looked like a remastered version.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, you definitely need to track down those discs. I don't think they're actually too expensive. So,
You probably find them on eBay or something. Yeah, I'll have to look them up.
yeah. Oh, I gotta show you this video. This is like one of my favorite videos. Okay. Like, this is just crazy. So that is Hideo Kojima. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what that is?
I have no idea.
That is a Dreamcast disc.
Wow.
That is Hideo Kojima signing a Dreamcast disc. I guarantee you he knows exactly what it is. Like, I guarantee you he knows exactly what he's signing.
Oh, that's some balls right there. That is some balls on the person.
That is some Kojima size balls right there.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I bet, check it out, guys. Like,
and you look at him like he's surprised, like he actually signed it. Like, then you look at his smile. He's like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm signing, and I don't care.
I've already got the check. I'm fine. Like, I'm already making millions of dollars off it. Who cares?
Yeah.
But that's some balls right there. Oh my god.
Yeah, I just love it. Like that. Like, oh, okay. Bit of a tangent, but I want to say this. Like, so I remember hearing the story about this guy was at a comic convention, and there were three people: himself, Stan Lee, Stan the Man Lee, and Hideo Kojima. Okay, and so they were doing their day, and Kojima's line was 2 to 3 times longer than Stan Lee's.
Good lord.
And Stan Lee leaned over to this guy and said, "Who is this guy?" Kojima's line was longer than Stan Lee's.
That's I don't know what to think about that. That's crazy. Because you think, oh my god.
Like literally any Comic-Con you go to, if you get Stan Lee, that is like the greatest guest you ever get.
Yeah, like that's what line I would be in. I would,
Yeah.
I mean, I like Hiro Kojima, but I mean, fuck, I'm going Stan Lee's line. Fuck that.
Yeah. Pretty
But
much.
I don't know. But yeah, that's absolutely just nuts.
People like Metal Gear Solid. Like, the fans are really, really, really passionate.
Mm.
So, let's kind of wrap things up here a little bit. What are your final thoughts on like the Dreamcast, what they could have done better, and what they did wrong? Like, just final stuff, and anything you want to shout out, please feel free to do so.
Well, I mean, we pretty much covered what they did wrong, and things they could have done right. But I mean, it's Sega. They've shot themselves in the foot over and over and over again. And I mean, honestly, one thing I think they should have done, like real quick, I wanted to talk about this before, but one thing I would think they should have done is I really, really, really think they should have got into the handheld market. And I think they could have, I think as technology got on better, I think they could have, improved their handhelds.
Honestly, even by the late 90s, it was a losing proposition because Nintendo still has a stranglehold in the market. Literally, the console that did the best against Nintendo was the Sony PSP. Even that, like, it sold 80 million. The DS sold like what 160 million. Like, sure, the PSP put up a great fight. Like, the PSP objectively did well, but the DS did so much better.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. It's just, I because I'm a Game Gear nut, and I think if they'd have just, remodeled the Game Gear, like because like when the Game Boy came out, they made the Game Boy Color and then the Game Boy Pocket. They made different variations of it. I think they should have done something like that and just kept improving the technology, because Game Gear has a lot of fun games on it, and I think if they'd have invested in it, I think they could have done.
Here's what they could have done. Like, here is the scenario where it might have worked. All right, so what they do is they release a new Game Gear. Hardware wise, is exactly the same, except they shrink it down. It uses 2 AA's, gets a crap ton better battery life, still uses the same cartridges, so like all your games are backwards compatible. But just continue it because the Game Gear was so powerful that, like, if you had just slimmed it down and had it just use 2 AA's, it probably could have lasted all through the 90s because at that point you're positioning against the Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color, and if it can like compete with like on batteries and battery life, then it probably could have held its own. Like, they had to release something to compete with the GBA, but at that point, like, Sega could have pulled it off. Like it had enough grunt that it could have totally competed with the Game Boy Color, like, with hands down.
Well, and then of course,
had to have released a revision that is just slimmer and whatnot.
Well, and the fact that also they had the TV tuner, so basically you have a portable TV wherever you went.
Yeah,
of course,
like that
wouldn't have lasted for too long.
They needed it would have lasted another like 20 years, but still, but the thing is, like, they needed to do a slimmed down version, probably horizontal orientation. That probably would have been fine. But like, this really isn't Sega, but you want to know one console that I really wish could have been released here that I think had a chance to go up against the Game Boy, the Wonder Swan.
Yeah,
because hardware wise, it was a real like hardware wise, especially when you're getting into like the Swan Color. Swan Color is basically a Game Boy Advance. Like, it is Game Boy Advance level.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, it ran like the battery life was so much like the Wonder Swan Black and White ran on
2 AA. I think.
Imagine if they had released the Swan Crystal before the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, that it would have. Yeah,
the Swan Crystal had a backlight. Like
yeah,
it might not have beaten the Game Boy Advance, but it would have been a heck of a compelling offer. Because remember, the Wonder Swan had a strong show from Bandai. Capcom really supported it. Square, like the Final Fantasy games we got in the GBA, are Wonder Swan ports.
There's actually a Wonder Swan Final Fantasy edition.
Yeah, like it had a very strong library,
And
it
that, and
could
that's
have
what I'm
held its
saying.
own.
Like if Game Gear had like maybe they went with Bandai and said, hey, can we and they combined the Game Gear and the Wonder Swan together.
Okay. Here's what you need to realize: Bandai didn't develop the Wonder Swan. A different company did, done by Gunpei Yokoi. So here's the scenario. All right, instead of Yokoi going to Bandai, he goes to Sega.
Yeah.
And you get the Sega Wonder Swan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now that would have been amazing. That's what they needed to have done. The master of handhelds.
Yeah, and it's like because that hardware still would have probably gotten the same support. Because remember, Square was still really salty at Nintendo, so like Sega could have worked out a deal, or imagine this: Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on the Sega Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Or like they could Sega could have released those Final Fantasy titles on the Sega Wonder Swan.
Yep. Exactly.
Like that field is wide open. Like that deal could have been made.
Yeah.
And like you would have gotten like the Capcom games. Make a deal with like Bandai. Because just think of it. The Digimon game, like there are so many great Digimon games.
I was about to say that. Yep, the Digimon games are on there too. Yep.
Because that's the thing. People say Pokemon would have cleaned their clocks. Pokemon would have won, but Bandai could have held their own because of Digimon.
People don't realize that Digimon was actually pretty popular in the late '90s. Like even in America.
It was. It wasn't
not as popular as Pokemon, but it was still pretty damn good.
It is still popular to this day. Like I say, the last 10 years it had a renaissance. But Digimon was like a very solid number 2 runner-up.
Mm-hmm.
Technically Digimon came first, by the way. Yeah, like the Digimon V-Pets actually predate the Pokemon. Which, by the way, I have one of them around here. After we finish recording, I'll show it to you. But yeah, so like that's another thing. Like imagine the Sega Wonder Swan and it could connect to the Dreamcast.
Yep. Imagine that. I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it would, oh my god, it'd been great. But
because I guarantee you if they had released like even the black and white version, just one AAA and you get like a crap ton of battery life with it. Because remember, like the Neo Geo Pocket actually didn't do too bad in the late 90s. Even like I think, and like they would have released the color. Like, I don't know the timeline, but probably the color would have released. Okay, I gotta look this up.
The Neo Geo Pocket Color was actually a really damn good system too.
Yeah, the thumbstick. All right. So release in 1999 was the Wonder Swan. That was a black and white version. Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at the. Okay, let me just pull this up, the Wikipedia page. That's easier. All right. Yeah, it's just easier to pull the Wikipedia page. All right. There we go. Okay. So it was unveiled in 1998 in October, launched in March 1999. So that was a black and white version. Let's see here. All right. So they would have later that year they announced the Wonder Swan color. So it was. I saw. I'm guessing. So the Crystal was released in 2002. So I think the color was released in what 2000. I think.
Yeah, somewhere around that time. Yeah.
Oh, they were going to release it in America. Okay. So later that year in 2000. So released December 9th, 2000. So yeah, around it, like Yeah, like imagine that. Like imagine the Sega Wonder Swan being released. Probably would have been released spring of 2001, to be honest. But like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, if they'd have played their cards right, they could have released a better system, or just slapped their
like,
name onto this one. And yeah, and Sega could have I think effectively could have gave Nintendo a run for their fucking money.
okay, since this is our dream scenario, we can do whatever the frick we want.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm gonna say happens. The Crystal version releases in September of 2000. Okay, and it's positioned as a holiday gift. All right. The black and white version is released in '98. Okay, so it gives you some lead up, and it's obviously backwards compatible. So you're like, because like just imagine just like the Game Boy, because the Game Boy Advance didn't have a good screen, like it wasn't backwards, like it wasn't backlit, but you have the Swan Crystal, where the graphics are just as good as the Game Boy Advance, and it has a backlight, and the battery life is really good.
Yeah,
that's a very compelling system.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's very, very, very compelling. And then you have and you have its version of Pokemon, which is Digimon. You have it on there, so then you get that crowd. So yeah, I think like I said, I seriously think Sega, if they'd have gone that route, if they could have gone that route, it would have they could have entered the handheld market a lot easier, and actually been like a really good competitor for Nintendo.
Like just imagine, like Gunpei Koi's expertise, like guys, because I guarantee you the timeline would have been moved up if Sega was involved, because Sega has like extensive hardware knowledge, extensive like knowledge on the subject. The timeline would have moved up. I just think it really would have.
There's only one problem though. Sega would still fucking cheap out on capacitors.
To be fair, I think by the late '90s, I think the bad capacitor thing was over by then.
Yeah.
So because Game Boys are Game Boy Pop Colors are still doing really well. So I think the bad capacitor thing was over by then.
Yeah.
But just imagine. Also in this scenario, since this is Fantasyland and we can do whatever the heck we want, they release a Nomad Lite.
Yeah.
Which is it's about the size of the Game Gear, or about half the size. Takes 4 AA's, and has it has, let's say, a 2-hour battery life. Because I think didn't the Nomad use a CRT screen, or am I confused?
No, I believe it used a like a TFP or TFT screen.
Because isn't there like one of the mods you do is you replace it with a modern screen, and that alone improves its battery life dramatically?
I mean, it had an LCD screen, but it did output like composite, I believe.
I mean, it's 1997 when it came out, so that's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, you could definitely but there are mods for the Nomad where you can actually give it like RGB and stuff like that. But anyways, so yeah, I mean I guess we could talk about this all day, what Sega could have done, but I mean, at the end of the day,
but the Sega Wonder Swan thing, I see, like, that is a very possible scenario. Like, that could have happened.
Yeah.
That is something that definitely could have happened. Like the Sega Wonder Swan, because Yokoi had his own company and he partnered with Bandai. So imagine, instead of partnering with Bandai, he partnered with Sega. So the Wonder Swan could have come out, and they cite the crowded market. I think that is a pretty legit reason.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, in the late '90s, the Game Gear was still kicking, Game Boy Color, Neo Geo Pocket, Gamecom. It was actually pretty crowded in the late '90s. Also,
the Engage.
That was not till the early 2000s, but yeah. Yeah, the 2000s handhelds market is a whole nother topic. But like, remember the Pocket Station?
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, VM is this their attempt to do VMUs. But yeah, just so many crazy things. Like I love, like I really want to get into the Wonder Swan, but like most of the games are in Japanese, so I can't play them.
Yeah. And that's
But
the thing. Is like a lot of
I love
Japanese
this form
games.
factor. I love this form factor though.
Oh yeah. But see, that's the thing with a lot of Japanese games is a lot of times they do use English.
Yeah, and like sometimes, like let's say you're playing like a Street Fighter game, you can kind of like like fumble your way through the menus, you can kind of play it, but still,
Yeah. I mean, like the Japanese version of Game Gear Shinobi is exactly it is the exact same game
Look
as the
at
North
this.
American
This
version.
is a good looking system. Like this is a good looking. Like that is a good, like there's and the color. Like that is perfectly in line with 90s aesthetics. Like I could see people going crazy over this.
Yeah, and you can play it horizontal too.
Yeah, like that's why you have the separate thing. Like that is a good looking system, and like this is a regular one. It's black and white. It's not bad. Like it looks good. I like it.
Yeah, it's a great it's a great looking system, both aesthetically and functionality. Yeah.
Yeah, like this looks really good. I would love to own this. Like seriously, it looks really good. Anyway, so everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Caster.
Pleasure to be here.
Let you get back to your grave digging.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been Nick from the Phoenix Press. And remember, I can only show you the door. You're the one to walk through it.